Good day, everyone. Thinker salute. Welcome to another episode of AXIOM TV. Um, in our continuing series, Say Word. Usually, every week, I like to present you with a reason to continue to improve yourself mentally. To reassure you that it's not just that life's not just about physical growth, but it's mostly about mental growth. Remember, you're born in a state what John Locke referred to as a tabula rasa. Um, of course, you have your instincts that you're born with, but not much else. You're not actually born with knowledge per se. It's not until you die. No matter what point you die, you have more knowledge than the moment that you are born. Even if you die 2 minutes later, you have more knowledge than the moment you were born. So definitely if you died 50 or 20 years later or so, you have substantially more knowledge than the state of what I refer to as triple stage ignorance at the moment of your birth. So life fundamentally is about um, mental improvement. That is the reason why nature endowed us with the great brains, the wonderful, marvelous minds that we have. Also, another thing I'd like to point out to you is that specifically within the United States, you hear a lot of um, antagonisms towards um, immigrants. And one of the main antagonisms you hear is that immigrants need to learn the language. Well, English, for one, is a very complicated language, if not the most complicated language in the world. But it's also the most popular language in the world due to us being superpower, the world's last superpower or empire, really. What I'd like to say about that is that it's a very hypocritical position for Americans to take, to say that immigrants should learn the language when for many of them they're just getting here and becoming accustomed to it, even though they learn a little bit in their countries or see the American movies and forms of entertainment in their countries. For the most part, they are learning the language of English in a very short amount of time before you encounter them. But what is Americans' excuse, especially those that have been alive for 20, 30, 40 plus years? What's your excuse for not knowing the language? Because for the most part, I'd say at least half Americans, if not most Americans, do not know that much of their own language. Most of the time, as I've pointed out, the people who um, have gone to higher levels of learning, such as universities, and have bachelor degrees or master's degrees, they have a much better command of the English language than the everyday average citizen. The average citizen speaks in mostly slang, um, forms of expression, or profanity and vulgarity. They don't really have a mastery of words like furtive, um, or opine, etc. So it's very hypocritical of these Americans who take this anti-immigrant position to say, hey, immigrants need to learn the language when you barely have a mastery of the language yourself. All you have, for the most part, all you have is passable English. That is what you know. You know passable English to be able to communicate in the most simplest forms. But when you turn on CNN or watch an interview with on CNBC or um, maybe even some of these movies, like the smarter ones, and you hear the words that are being spoken, half the time you have no idea what they're saying. It might as well be Chinese or um, Arabic, or some other language, being some foreign language that you have no idea what is being said, even though they are speaking English. But the fact that it might be a 4-syllable word or a word that's not commonly used, you are completely ignorant to it. Isn't that a part of the English language? Shouldn't you also be taking your advice and doing what you're saying to the immigrants? Okay. Well, that said, let's move on to this week's words of the language of power. Our first word is curmudgeonly. Curmudgeonly. It means a bad-tempered or surly person. Curmudgeonly. A bad-tempered or surly person. Our next word is gratuitous. Gratuitous means uncalled for. Uncalled for. Uncalled for. Lacking good reason. Pardon me. Gratuitous. Uncalled for. Lacking good reason. The subsequent word to that is disparate. Disparate, which means essentially different in kind, not allowing comparison. Dissimilar. Disparate. Disparate means essentially different in kind, not allowing comparison. Dissimilar. Our word after that is foe. And I don't mean foe like your enemy, F-O-E, but a word of the same pronunciation but a different spelling, such as used in the phrase faux pas, F-A-U-X, that foe, that version of the word foe. And that means made in imitation, artificial. Foe, F-A-U-X, spelled F-A-U-X. It means made in imitation, artificial. Our next word is actually a term. It's called, I heard Charlie Munger use it this week in an old interview I was watching about him. It's disconfirming evidence. Disconfirming evidence. And that means to show that a belief or hypothesis is not true. Disconfirming evidence. To show that a belief or hypothesis is not true. Our next word following that is remit. Remit. And it means to cancel from exacting or inflicting a debt or punishment. Remit. To cancel from exacting, to refrain or cancel from exacting or inflicting a debt or punishment. Remit. To refrain or cancel from exacting or inflicting a debt or punishment. Sorry, I knew that I was looking for that R. I knew there was an R word in there somewhere, somewhere near the beginning. Remember, I am human after all, and I'm pulling this straight from memory. The next word is misbegotten. Misbegotten, which means badly conceived, designed, or planned. Misbegotten. Badly conceived, designed, or planned. Our next word following that is abdicate. Abdicate, which means to renounce or resign. To fail or fail to fulfill or undertake a responsibility or duty. Abdicate, to renounce or resign. Fail to fulfill or undertake a responsibility or duty. Following that, the next word is albatross. Albatross. Used as a metaphor, it is a psychological burden that feels like a curse. Albatross. Used as a metaphor, a psychological burden that feels like a curse. And finally, our last word for this week of Say Word is anomalous. Anomalous. And it means to deviate from what is standard, normal, or expected. Anomalous. Deviating from what is standard, normal, or expected. Which, if you think about it, is what Axiom TV is. You could use that adjective to describe this channel because we are deliberately deviating from what is standard and considered normal or expected in this country, which is just to follow along and be a zealot, be a blind, loyal zealot, and never question. And if you do question, don't question in a too much of a probing way. Stick to the superficialities. So I hope this helped you this week. Remember, continue to improve because that is essentially what your life is about. Think or salute. Be easy.